Hello and welcome to the Alcohol Recovery Show, where we discuss practical, actionable steps for anyone who wants to achieve their dream of getting and staying well, happy and free from any form of alcohol dependence. Hello and welcome back to the Alcohol Recovery Show. Sober in seconds. Well, of course it doesn't take seconds to get sober, but there are seconds that could really affect whether or not you ultimately do get sober and certainly stay sober. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Those moments that quietly transform recovery. How do you set up your life so those micro decisions that take seconds help sobriety become easier? A lot of people think sobriety is won through giant heroic acts of willpower. But usually it isn't. Sobriety is often built through those micro decisions. Now, what put this into my mind was speaking to a friend in recovery recently who told me that they made a split-second decision about whether or not to get on a train. Doesn't sound like much. If they missed that train, they could have got the next train. But that decision, they knew in their heart of hearts, would mean that if they stayed on that platform in London late at night, they'd probably wander off and have a drink. They knew that if they got on that train, they'd get back to their hometown in time to go to a meeting and feel safe. So sobriety is often built through those micro decisions. Should you jump in the car and go and buy that bottle of wine at the supermarket or not? If someone puts a drink of alcohol in front of you, do you lift it to your lips or not? So those tiny choices. There's other supportive things that you might do in life as well, like what time you wake up, what you keep in your fridge, who you text when you feel stressed, whether or not you go left or right after work. Perhaps the pub is in one direction and your home's in the other. Whether you pause for 10 seconds or you react instantly. These small moments might seem insignificant, but they create momentum. And the truth is this, when life does feel chaotic or stressful or unstructured and full of temptation, these little micro decisions become much harder to make to uphold our sobriety. But when life's arranged well, good choices happen with much less effort. So today we're going to explore how to design your life in a way that supports sobriety naturally, not to make you feel like you're punishing yourself or white-knuckling it, but just through wise setup. And listen right the way to the end, because at the end we'll talk about how to deal with those intense moments where you know a decision weighs in the balance of whether or not you're going to take a drink or do something that is going to really undermine your sobriety. What do you do in those split-second minutes? So we'll talk about that at the end. But first of all, if we think that sobriety is less about willpower and more just about systems, routines, how we set up our life. When people struggle with alcohol, they might say, I'm weak, I've got no discipline, I keep messing up. But often it's not a character flaw and it's not willpower. It's just a systems flaw. Thinking of it as systems flaw helps take the emotional and moral sting out of a decision that perhaps has led you back down the wrong path again for you. So if you're exhausted, isolated, hungry, emotionally overloaded, walking past your old off licence every evening, keeping alcohol in the house and spending time with people who normalise heavy drinking, it's really not a fair fight. Anyone would struggle in that setup. So think of sobriety less as a moral battle and more as an environment question. So take a moment now to ask yourself, what in my daily life makes drinking easier? And what in my daily life makes staying sober easier? You could pause this episode now and have a think, make a few notes if you need to. But these questions and your answers could change everything, because once you stop shaming yourself, you can start adjusting your environment. An environment is powerful. The second thing I'd like you to have a think about is how to remove friction for good choices. One of the smartest things you can do is to remove any friction from sober behaviour. By that, I mean anything that makes a healthy choice harder for you than it needs to be. An example of making things harder might be having no easy food in the house, so you skip meals and you crave alcohol. Perhaps you've got no plan for your evenings, so boredom creeps in. Maybe you lack support contacts who are ready to help you if you're struggling with alcohol. Maybe you've got no alcohol-free drinks available, so the old habits just take over. Or maybe you stay up too late and you feel terrible tomorrow, and then you end up reaching for a drink because you're tired and grumpy. But let's reverse that. Make sober choices smoother. Stock your kitchen with easy meals. Have sparkling water, tea or alcohol-free alternatives ready. Keep a list of emergency distractions on your phone. Maybe do things like lay out your gym clothes or your walking boots the night before so you can get out for some exercise early the next day. And it's important to prepare a calming bedtime ritual so that you're ready for sleep. Make things easy for yourself, because sometimes people underestimate how powerful convenience can be. The next aspect of this is to think about your vulnerable hours. It might be different for different people. Maybe your time is when you finish work, or Friday night, or that anxiety that you might feel on a Sunday evening before going back to work on a Monday. Maybe it's arguments with the family, or perhaps you get a bit of a high on payday and feel that you need to go off and spend it at the nearest pub or bar as soon as possible. It could be being at home alone, or maybe travelling, staying in hotels, travelling through airports, or particular celebrations. These could be moments when you know you're most vulnerable to being tempted to lift a drink again. But the thing is not to fear those vulnerable moments, but to prepare for them. So if 6 p.m. is your trigger time, then 5:30 to 7 needs more structure. It could mean something like just going for a walk straight after work, or cooking a good meal for yourself while listening to a podcast. Maybe ring somebody, go to a meeting, go to the gym, drive home a different route, or something as simple as a nice hot shower and early pyjamas. The worst thing you can do is just see how it goes. If you know Friday night is your trigger time, prepare for it. Set yourself up with an evening routine that's going to take your mind off alcohol. Another way of looking at this is to make a future you stronger. When you feel good, clear, motivated and stable, prepare for future harder days. In early sobriety, it can be easy, if things are going well, to get on a bit of an emotional high. And you sort of forget that you will have difficult times. It's not being negative, it's just being realistic. So you could maybe ask yourself, how can today's version of me support tomorrow's version? So you can do things like batch cook healthy meals, make sure that your home is a nice, clean environment to be in, refill sober drinks, book classes that you'll enjoy, schedule therapy if you need it, write out a list of reasons why you quit and look at that list regularly, keep it somewhere handy. Perhaps for you, saving money visibly might help. Put reminders on your phone, make a relapse prevention list, text a friend to set accountability. And let's face it, decision fatigue is a real thing. Every decision you make during the day uses mental energy. Those decisions could be about what to eat, what to wear, what to do in the evening, whether to rest or push through, whether to drink or not. And if your brain feels drained, impulsive choices become more likely. That's why simplifying your life helps build sobriety. So create routines. You don't even have to think. Eat similar breakfasts. Have a regular evening rhythm. Use a standard shopping list. Have default exercise days and set sleep routines and keep to them. Routines aren't boring, they're protective. And they free up energy for the things that really matter in life. Many successful sober people become quietly structured, not because they're rigid, but because structure reduces unnecessary battles. Now think about the type of person you are becoming. Think about the identity that you want for yourself. Is it as a sober, calm person? You can upgrade your identity through tiny votes that you make every day. So every micro decision that you make is a vote for the person you are becoming. Instead of pouring a drink, get to bed early. Eat a good dinner instead of skipping it. You might want to leave an event early to get back home to sleep and feel fresh the next day. Ask for help when you need it. Take time out to journal instead of just spiralling in your own thoughts. When you feel stressed, go for a walk. And remember, it's okay to say no thank you if you feel that accepting a social invitation might jeopardise your sobriety. And keep your promises to yourself. Remind yourself regularly that you are someone who wants to protect their peace, someone who wants to heal, someone who can trust themselves. Because sobriety isn't just about removing alcohol, it is about building self-respect through repeated, tiny evidence that you're going to show up for yourself. Now, one thing that can trip people up is the "I'll decide later" trap. Don't leave things to chance as much as possible, because many relapses happen long before the drink. Often they begin in vague thinking. Things like, "I'll see how I feel tonight. I might go, but I won't drink. I'll just pop in for an hour. I'm sure I'll be fine," with no backup plan. Things like saying to your host beforehand that you will be leaving early, so it's not a surprise to people. Having your own vehicle or mode of transport or a taxi booked so you can get home at a reasonable time for you. Don't just leave things to chance, because ambiguity can be dangerous, especially in early recovery. Decide in advance if you're going to an event. How long will you stay? How will you leave? What will you drink? Who supports you? What if cravings hit? Someone I know recently had a relapse. This is what happened. They'd been sober for 6 weeks and they decided that they felt strong enough to go off on a holiday with their husband to Germany. Now the problem was they had no backup plan. They just vaguely said, "No, I'm not going to drink, I'll be fine." When they got to Germany, they felt overwhelmed, they felt tired, there was a little bit of culture shock, there were some arrangements that didn't quite go according to plan, and unfortunately their husband didn't really understand their need for continued sobriety and made the classic mistake of suggesting to them that they'd be okay with just one drink. Now, I've talked to my friend about how she can prepare herself for anything similar coming up in future. And those pre-decisions that she will make are powerful. You don't need to negotiate with temptation in real time. You can feel so overwhelmed by confusion, by stress, that trying to make a decision in that moment can just feel too overwhelming if you haven't got a plan. So the takeaway here is to have a plan that you can put in place and follow for those moments when you know you're going to be around alcohol or in a situation that could be tempting. Remember to design your space. Think about your home, because your home environment influences behaviour far more than people realise. Ask yourself, does my space at home soothe me or stress me? If it feels chaotic, cluttered, uncomfortable or depressing, cravings can often arise. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It might just need a few small improvements. Perhaps just clearing one or two surfaces, putting fresh bedding on your bed, having warmer lighting, using candles or scent, having recovery books visible, having your tea station set up, ready so that you can make a comforting hot drink when you need to, and removing alcohol cues. If there's a particular glass that you associate with drinking alcohol, it'd be best to pass that on or at least put it out of sight. Create a home that says, you're safe here. Now, what do you do when you feel stressed? Imagine stress hits you unexpectedly. What happens automatically? Your old pattern might be, when I get stressed, that means I need a drink. So you need to develop a new pattern. Text someone. Walk. Shower. Breathe. Go to a recovery meeting. Write out your feelings. Maybe you need to get to bed early. The goal here is not to never feel cravings. Cravings will just come and they will go. But it is to build new defaults. And defaults come through repetition. So practice your sober responses when things are calm, so that they're easier to do when life gets messy or difficult. Now, don't forget about compassion. This is an important reminder. It's not about perfection, it is about compassion. It's not about becoming a flawless productivity robot or the perfect morning routine or having some sort of colour-coded meal prep. And you don't need to meditate at sunrise. You just need enough support. You just need enough structure, enough care, enough honesty. And some days your micro decision might be simply to say, I'm ordering a takeaway instead of drinking, or I'm going to bed early, or I'm going to call a friend. Often progress in recovery is just humble and unglamorous, but it works and it's real. Now, before we go, I just want to talk about mental preparation for those ambiguous moments. By ambiguous moments, I mean those strange in-between times when a thought of a drink appears quietly. It's not a full craving, it's certainly not a decision, it's just a vague suggestion. Perhaps a thought comes into your mind like, a drink would be nice right now, or you've done well lately, you deserve a drink, or one wouldn't matter, or everyone else is, why can't I? Or feeling like you deserve it. These moments can feel really small, but they matter because many relapses begin as a passing thought that wasn't recognised. So mental preparation means learning how to meet these moments calmly and skillfully. They're not instructions. These thoughts are just thoughts. You don't have to follow them if they do happen to pop into your mind. They're not a command. They're not your true desire. And they're certainly not your destiny. The brain throws out suggestions all day long, and some are useful, some are random, and many are based on old habits and routines. If you used alcohol for years, your brain may still occasionally offer it as a solution, but that doesn't mean you want it. It just means an old pathway in your brain has been fired, and you don't need to panic. You simply need to notice, that's just a thought. And that sentence creates space. So if a thought like that does come into your mind, name the real need. Often the drink thought is just a disguise. What you actually really need might be rest, or comfort, or fun, or connection. Maybe you need to eat. Maybe you just need to distract yourself for a little while in a movie or a book. Perhaps you feel that you need a little reward, or just a change of scene. So when a thought comes, ask yourself, what do I really need right now? Because alcohol might have been the old answer, but it rarely is the real need. So when those thoughts, those moments come to you in those ambiguous times, it could help to have a script ready to rehearse as a response in advance. You might have something like, I don't do that anymore, or that would solve nothing, or this feeling will pass, or something like, I need care, not chaos. I know where that road goes. So these prepared phrases reduce that mental wobble, so you're not debating from scratch every time. And many urges lose strength quickly if they're not fed. So you might do something like moving yourself physically, just going to make a cup of tea, taking a shower, going for a walk, phoning somebody, eating something, or changing rooms. Motion changes your state. Stillness can sometimes intensify looping thoughts. So move. Remember the full story. The mind often romanticizes that first sip and deletes the consequences. So train yourself to remember the full chain, that a drink is not just a drink, but a drink can lead to a lot of regret, anxiety, poor sleep, guilt, lost momentum, and disappointment. So play the tape forward. That's a good mental habit in recovery. You don't need to fear these moments because they will happen. Ambiguous moments don't mean failure. They don't mean you're back at square one. They just mean that you're human and you're healing. And sometimes old habits just echo, even years down the line. But that's all they are, echoes. So when the thought of a drink arrives, you don't need to fight it dramatically. You just simply need to recognise it, pause, and choose your deeper truth over an old reflex. That's how sobriety strengthens. So if sobriety has felt hard recently, don't only ask, what's wrong with me? Ask, what needs adjusting around me? Do you have a system or a routine that needs changing or setting up? What friction needs removing? Are you making things as easy for yourself as possible? When is your most vulnerable hour? And what are you going to do to support yourself during that time? What routine needs strengthening? And what tiny decision can you make today to help safeguard your sobriety? Remember, healing often happens one small, wise choice at a time. It's not dramatic, it's not flashy, it's just steady. And steady and consistent becomes powerful. Thank you for listening today. If this episode has helped you, share it with someone who may need encouragement. And remember, you don't need to win forever today. You only need to win the next micro decision. So take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.